European nations are exploring legal mechanisms to step up inspections and mass seizures of tankers passing through the Baltic Sea. The focus is on Russia's shadow fleet of oil tankers, which the aggressor state uses to bypass sanctions and sell fuel on the global market.
Close to 50% of sanctioned trade in Russian seaborne oil is going through the Gulf of Finland. There are the environmental threats. There are the attacks we've had against our undersea infrastructure. Now the question is, what can we do with these ships? We cannot block all the sea, but we can control more. There are lots of opportunities. Margus Tsahkna, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Estonia, in a commentary for Politico.
One proposal under discussion is applying international laws on piracy or environmental threats. The shadow fleet largely consists of aging, often defective tankers, increasing the risk of oil spills. On February 9th, several explosions occurred in the engine room of the Koala tanker at the port of Ust-Luga in Russia's Leningrad region. The vessel was carrying 130,000 tons of fuel.
Border Guard surveillance aircraft have been deployed to the eastern Gulf of Finland. The surveillance planes will be able to detect oil spills and manage response operations from a post by the Finnish Border Guard on social network X. In the case of a serious accident in the Baltic Sea, all countries located in the waters of this Gulf would suffer huge losses. Additionally, most shadow fleet tankers are insured by Russian companies without reinsurance, meaning that in the event of an environmental disaster, there will be no financial coverage for cleanup costs.
To simplify the detention of these vessels, Baltic Sea nations may soon require tankers to carry insurance from reputable international companies, a requirement that most shadow fleet vessels currently do not meet. Implementing this measure would require coordinated legal changes across multiple countries. Denmark recently intensified inspections of ships transporting Russian oil. For a long time, Copenhagen cited an 1857 treaty as the reason for not interfering with Russian shipping. However, Danish policy has now shifted significantly.
These efforts are in response to the growing presence of aging tankers transporting oil through the Danish Straits, which pose an increased risk to maritime safety, seafarers, and the environment. State oversight is focused on tankers, as accidents involving damage or loss of these vessels could have far-reaching consequences for security, health, and the environment. From a message on the website of the Danish Maritime Authority.
Russia's so-called shadow fleet is responsible for approximately 70% of its total oil exports and consists of around 600 vessels. However, due to new US sanctions imposed on January 10th, 183 of these tankers have already been blacklisted.
Russian companies are cutting costs wherever possible, but rising logistical expenses have made oil transport via tankers increasingly unprofitable. While pipeline exports remain unaffected, shipping oil by sea has become significantly more expensive, which could lead to a substantial drop in revenue for the Russian budget from shadow oil trade.
The European Union may impose restrictions on at least 50 more tankers as part of its 16th sanctions package. This expectation was voiced by Władysław Łasiuk, the Ukrainian advisor and presidential commissioner for sanctions policy. Brussels plans to announce the new round of anti-Russian sanctions in late February, aligning it with the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Reported by Serhiy Kulas, Valeria Nikopelova, UATV News. At the end of 2024, several cases of damage to undersea communication cables were reported in the Baltic Sea. These incidents caused economic disruptions, communication breakdowns, and power supply interruptions in the affected countries. These cables connect Scandinavian states to the rest of Europe. The issue persisted into 2025, with the largest incident involving damage to a cable between Sweden and Latvia. Latvia's navy promptly dispatched a patrol vessel to investigate a ship suspended of involvement.
Upon receiving the report of the damage, we inspected the area of the possible breach. Our patrol vessel on duty was immediately sent to check the ship near the cable. We conducted an inspection and found that the vessel was headed to Russia, awaiting clearance from its agent to proceed.
Following the Latvian Navy's inspection of the suspected cargo ship involved in damaging the fiber optic cable, Swedish authorities detained the vessel shortly after Sweden's prosecutor's office announced an investigation into suspected sabotage. According to Vessel Finder, the detained cargo ship Vesian is registered in Malta and belongs to a Bulgarian shipping company. A few days ago, the ship left the Russian port of Ust-Luga and was in the area between the island of Gotland and Latvia, when, presumably, the cable connection was damaged. The head of the Bulgarian company that owns the Vesian rejects accusations of possible sabotage by the crew.
The ship was sailing under very poor weather conditions. There was a strong southwesterly wind exceeding 25 meters per second. When the wind stopped, the crew went ashore to inspect for possible damage. They found that the left anchor had dropped, as we put it in maritime terms, and it was dragging on the seabed. It's possible that the ship caused this cable problem.
Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, Kęstutis Budrys, commented on social network X, stating that it's time to stop believing in coincidence regarding cable breaks in the Baltic Sea. He emphasized the need to revise shipping regulations in the region. NATO has also expressed concern over the protection of critical infrastructure. On January 27th, 2 NATO military ships began patrolling the Baltic Sea as part of Operation Baltic Sentry.
What we at the moment do is deter by enhancing our presence. We are the CCTVs of the Baltic Sea region and we hope to deter anybody who might be inclined to cause unlawful action or damage to critical infrastructure. We hope we can deter them by our presence. But we also track them, we monitor them, and everybody who is wanting to undertake anything unlawful against any infrastructure should know it will not remain unseen and reaction will come.
The European Union recognizes hybrid threats in Europe, particularly in the Baltic Sea, as a pressing issue. During a meeting of EU foreign ministers in Brussels, diplomats agreed to raise awareness and develop strategies to prevent further acts of sabotage. Reported by Serhiy Kulias, Mykaytas Koblikov, UATV News.